Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. My name is Hannah and on this channel I post a ton of anti-MLM content. I have a huge anti-MLM playlist that has over 60 videos on it and it's growing every single week. I will link that here if you're interested. And additionally, if you like this kind of content, I would love it if you would consider subscribing, consider liking this video. All of those things really support me and my channel and I appreciate you so much for doing that. For today's video, I have another MLM horror stories for you. These are your own personal experiences with an MLM, being recruited into one, maybe you have a family member in one, and these are all stories that people have taken the time to write out and send to me, and I read them for the first time and react to them in a video. If at any point you feel like you want to send me your story, the instructions for how to do that are in the description box. It's very easy, you just send me an email. I've pulled 5 stories from my folder today, so let's get into it. This one says, "Hi Hannah, first, thank you for doing the work to help expose all of these predatory companies. You are really changing lives and that's so important. My name is Cheryl and I don't care if you use it. These predatory chicks can bite me." All right, we love that. We love that for you. I wanted to tell you my story because there was so much gaslighting at the end that I still, 6 years later, feel like I might have been the crazy one sometimes. Some backstory. I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, about 8 years ago. There are about 1 million different symptoms, but mine were insulin resistance that makes it extremely difficult to lose weight, irregular periods, and infertility. I am telling you this because you can see how me sharing my struggles publicly led to becoming a prime target for any number of these companies, right? I was invited to It Works parties, Juice Plus demonstrations, and one night when I was at a particularly low point, literally crying on my bathroom floor over how much I hate that my body cannot do things normal people's can, I reached out to my good friend to talk me off the edge. Can you see where this is going? Unfortunately, I can see where this is going. I talk about it all the time, how there can be health-related vulnerabilities. And I always say that having a vulnerability doesn't mean that you're weak, it doesn't mean that you're incapable, it doesn't mean that you are unworthy of anything, it just means that that is a pain point for you and it's something that people can use against you. And in this context, it can be used against you to try and get you into an MLM because that MLM is promising you any variety of things. It plays into financial vulnerabilities, it plays into emotional vulnerabilities and health-related vulnerabilities. And the reps from these companies will often claim that their products that they sell or the business opportunity they have for you, those things will help you in your vulnerability. They will solve whatever it is that you're struggling with. But in the end, they're only pitching that to you. They're only offering that to you because they benefit financially from that. She had just joined Beachbody. I am not exaggerating when I say just joined. Her Shakeology hadn't even arrived yet, but she was already being brainwashed in the group she was added to and thought that it could help me with all of my problems. I was feeling lonely in this diagnosis, desperate, and was very vulnerable. So of course I signed up as a coach to get the discount because, you know, that is expensive. I was so hopeful that something would help because even the meds that the doctor had given me did nothing to help. I know it was stupid now, but I wanted that miracle cure so badly. I got put in all the same groups as my friend. I still don't blame her and we are still close. She didn't know what she was doing either. It was the blind leading the blind, but her uplines were in the millionaire club and went on, quote, free vacations, and I was too desperate to take the time to look into what that meant. I was really their prime target audience. I drank a lot of Kool-Aid. I believed I could be successful just selling challenge packs because I really hated recruiting. From day one, it felt so gross to pounce on people who posted workout selfies, which is what we were told to do. I was also told to use my PCOS to find customers. I was told to join every PCOS group on social media and talk to others about how Shakeology has helped me. Number 1, you get kicked out of groups for cold messaging members trying to shill a pyramid scheme, duh. And number 2, newsflash, it didn't actually work. It is just an overpriced protein shake that doesn't even have that much protein with less than the equivalent of a crushed up multivitamin in it. I will attach a great post about what Shakeology consists of from a dietitian who is much smarter than me. Okay, this is a very, very long, very detailed Instagram post by the account Amanda Howell Health. I will have this link down below if you want to check it out for yourself. But yeah, it's basically just debunking the idea that Shakeology is better for you than a variety of other supplements. And let's talk about this idea of preying on other people that have the same vulnerability that you do. As you said, it felt gross, it didn't feel right, but that's what you were being advised to do. The people on your team or your upline or whoever it was that was trying to convince you to do that, they recognize, hey, you have this health condition and you can use that to your advantage to recruit other people or to sell more product. And I recognize that these terms are kind of harsh, but in a sense, you were the prey turning into the predator. Not because your goal was explicitly to go prey on other vulnerable people, but that's what you were being told by the people on your team that you need to be doing if you're gonna make this business work. And you're not alone in being advised to like cold message people through these specific Facebook groups and things. I get sent things all the time of people pitching their MLMs in a variety of different groups. It's a pretty sick and twisted tactic. Anyway, I espoused the benefits of this magic shake, signed up my husband, and ran his account because that is exactly what I was told to do. I did all of the essential behaviors they tell you to do every day. Personal development, 10 plus reach outs, add 10 new friends on every platform, etc. It was exhausting. All while also doing my full-time job, planning my wedding, and dealing with my medical issues. To keep both my husband and my accounts active, I had 2 Shakeology subscriptions a month, so over $200 per month. Plus your business/website fee, which I can't remember if it was a monthly or yearly fee. Then every new workout program that came out, you just had to buy, because how could you tell your friends and family about it if you didn't do it yourself? Be a product of the product, of course. And every few months they would have sales to clear out old inventory, I imagine. And I remember one sale buying $400 worth of programs and equipment. After I left, I went back and did the math. 2 years in the company and I spent over $4,000. Pretty sure most of the commissions I made were from things I bought from my own or husband's accounts. Tell me again how the coaches aren't the customers. Oh yeah, you don't have to tell me. You don't have to convince me. This is a great example of all of these little costs that add up. It's the Shakeology, it's the new programs, it's the website fees, it's the buying things when they go on sale. I would imagine that none of those things were advertised as like your startup costs when you were thinking about joining. And that's definitely one of the pieces of information that is super misleading is people from all MLMs. They'll say, oh, well, the sign-up cost is only this much. Only $99 to start your business or whatever it is. But it's all these extra little things that they're not explicitly telling you need to buy, but also there's that pressure. Also, there's that somewhat of a need, like you said, to be using the programs you're trying to sell, using the Shakeology you're trying to sell. All of these things cut into your profits and it affects your bottom line. And like you said, if you go back and do the math, most people lose money. Also worth noting, every Monday morning there was a national wake-up call that you just had to be on. Otherwise, you, quote, weren't taking this seriously. It was just a brainwashing call with whatever top coach was the flavor of the month and the CEO, Carl Deichler. I had always hated them because they never actually told you any of the science behind the products or why they worked. They just talked about personal development and how to overcome objections. I was always thinking, how am I supposed to sell this new great thing if you don't actually train me on how it works? And why do I have to buy it? You should be sending me some for free to try before I sell it. Then the other shoe dropped. Do people even know what that means anymore? I swear I'm only 34, not 90. The announcement of Beachbody on demand dropping. Everyone in our coach groups was so excited. P.S. I am one of those coaches that never got past the first rank up because, you know, it's basically impossible. While everyone was talking about how amazing it was going to be, I was reading into what it really meant. Challenge packs could now be purchased with a Beachbody on-demand subscription instead of a DVD-based program. For context, challenge packs are what most of the PV came in. You earned very minimal PV on orders of individual programs or products. And with a Beachbody on-demand challenge pack, our PV was basically the same as an individual product. You couldn't just sell 2 a month and break even with your own Shakeology subscription anymore. You made almost nothing on it, and that's what the company was really pushing. Beachbody on demand also gave people access to lots of older DVD-based programs without paying for them separately, and any additional programs purchased on their Beachbody On Demand account would not be credited to the coach. I brought this up in the group and received a super nasty message from the team leader about how negative I was being, and that if I didn't stop, I would be kicked out of the Facebook group. I didn't stop. I couldn't believe I was the only one seeing this. That's when I started researching more deeply and came across OpenFit, a site where you can pay around $10 a month and have access to hundreds of live and recorded classes. It's not a pyramid scheme, but it's owned and operated by none other than Beachbody. They are running a separate company competing with their own coaches for customers, and it's way cheaper. They are directly undermining the effectiveness of the coach program they created. That is extremely fascinating to me. I feel like that nugget of information was somewhere deep in the recesses of my memory, but when you lay it out like that, that is insane. Because what is the point of doing Beachbody if you can get virtually the same program for cheaper and it's not an MLM? And my instinct is to say that that's because it's really not about the product. It's not about the workouts. It's not about the shakes. It's about creating a pyramid scheme where you have people who are joining thinking that they're fitness coaches, and that pyramid structure is what keeps Beachbody alive. They don't really have to worry about the fact that they're creating this separate, cheaper, competing company. Because it's almost like if you just want to be a customer, you go to OpenFit. But if you want a shot at being a fitness coach and you want to make a ton of money, then you join Beachbody. And don't even get me started on how coaches aren't even the slightest bit qualified to be recommending supplements or programs to people. It's truly disturbing. If you or any of your subscribers want more entertaining content about that mess, I highly recommend checking out Brianna Jewell on YouTube. She breaks down a lot of issues with Beachbody coaches and fitness influencers, and she is a real personal trainer with, what do you call them? Oh, certifications and credentials. I could go on and on about the gaslighting and harassment that happened after I left. So many people in the group would comment on my normal posts and wrote mean messages about me and my, quote, work ethic. People that say they will always be your friend turn on you the second you question things. I have seen everything that you talk about: the toxic positivity, the information control, the love bombing, the gaslighting, the isolation they put you into when they tell you to cut out anyone who is negative. It was all there. I mean, on one hand, I'm sorry that those are things you had to experience, but on the other hand, I'm glad that you're feeling like you're validated in those experiences, and I'm really happy for you, and I'm proud of you that you were recognizing the red flags as they were coming up. You were thinking critically, and you were asking tough questions. Those are characteristics that a lot of people that get involved with MLMs either don't have or they are encouraged not to have. You're encouraged not to ask questions. You're encouraged not to think critically about anything. So good for you for doing it anyway and recognizing this for what it really is and for getting out. Oh, I forgot. I was so desperate to make it work that I even got certified to teach PIO. I don't know what that is. It was a joke. It was a 5-hour class taught by an instructor trainer who didn't have any other fitness certifications, teaching a bunch of non-certified Beachbody coaches to teach real-life PIO classes. I need to look this up. What is PIO? Okay, it's a term coined by the Beachbody company, and it stands for Pilates and yoga, so maybe like a fusion of those. How is that legal? I could have taught classes after that and gotten someone seriously injured because all I had was a 5-hour class that was really just one long PIO class that also made you get up in front of the class and teach like one song worth of moves. Thank God I never actually taught classes with that certification, but I did have to sign up to buy monthly new class DVDs before I left that day. Insert huge eye roll here. Anyway, that was so long. Thank you for letting me get that off my chest. I've wanted to for years. Keep fighting the good fight. You rock. Thank you so much for sending this in. This was a great story. I love, love, love when I get stories from people who have actually been in an MLM and they have those personal experiences. I think it's so fascinating to hear like what got you into it, what was your turning point that you realized that it wasn't what you thought it was, and how you got out and how you feel about it now. I think that those are the most powerful and impactful stories. So thank you so much, Cheryl, for sending that. Also, if you can hear my cat in the background of this video, Zeke is on another level today. I'm in this room working, my husband's in the other room working, and Zeke is just going back and forth and driving us both insane. I will do what I can to edit him out of this video, but I am at my wit's end. This story says, Kia ora from New Zealand, and you even included a link to how I pronounce Kia ora. Thank you. You're like, I know this girl can't pronounce stuff, so I better help her out. I discovered your channel on Christmas Day, and I've been binging your videos since. A lovely Christmas present. But I'm sorry, nothing will beat the 3D printer my husband got me. That's amazing. I love it. And you sent this email on December 27th, so it only took you 2 days to send in an email, and I love that. That might be a record. This isn't so much of a horror story, but rather a they nearly got me story. A few years ago, I was going through a period of unemployment. Need I say more? Fortunately, my husband was able to support me during this time, but I definitely hated the feeling of being dependent on him and not contributing financially to our living situation. One day, I was just browsing Facebook and came across a sponsored ad by a unique sales rep advertising the opportunity to use and sell makeup for a living. It sounded too good to be true, but nevertheless, I decided to investigate further. I reached out to the sales rep and she sent me a few links with information about the company, including a YouTube video because, of course. For additional context, I was heavily into makeup YouTube at the time, and the idea of basically being a makeup influencer felt like a dream come true, which is why I really wanted to look into this potential option. However, I'm I'm also a very skeptical person, and the more I read about Unique, the more rep social media accounts I looked at, and the more I learned about MLMs in general, the more I felt that something was off, although I couldn't put my finger on it at the time. Also, to be perfectly frank, the makeup looked a bit it does, I can concur. In the end, I got back to the Unique rep and told her that after taking some time to think about it, this opportunity just wasn't right for me, and she respectfully accepted my response. Honestly, after learning more about MLMs and watching channels like yours, Kiki Chanel, Savvy Writes Books, Tiffany Ferg, Illuminati, and the Anti-Bot, it blows my mind that the Unique rep just accepted my answer and didn't push back at all. And I don't think that she was a Kiwi, a New Zealander. Am I pronouncing that right? Kiwi? Otherwise, it wouldn't be as shocking to me. Maybe on her end, she just decided that trying to recruit some random chick in the middle of the South Pacific was going to be too much work. I don't know. I'm now gainfully employed at a tertiary institution, and I've learned way more about MLMs now, and boy did I dodge a bullet. Even if I had jumped into it, I don't think I would have hung around long enough to lose a significant amount of money. Peer pressure has never had any effect on me, so if my hypothetical upline were to give me attitude, I'd probably just tell them to go F themselves and then quit anyway. This emoji. Additionally, I don't think MLMs have much of a foothold in New Zealand. In fact, a lot of people here don't even know what they are. They're more likely to assume you're talking about men loving men rather than multi-level marketing schemes. Yes, the acronym MLM does cause confusion sometimes. I've had to explain myself on more than one occasion that I am not anti-men loving men. Multi-level marketing, okay? I think Tupperware was kind of big when I was a tot, and I seem to have vague recollections of a friend of mine allowing someone to host a pure romance party at her place several years ago, but I got out of attending that one due to being ace. Does ace mean young? Does ace mean sick? Is ace a New Zealander slang? I do not know. The only other way MLMs have impacted me is when I found out that the Body Shop has an independent consultant branch. So I had to find a new Holy Grail moisturizer to replace their seaweed gel cream that I'd been using religiously. I use Antibodies now, the best skincare I've tried. Thanks for spreading more awareness on this topic. P.S. I know you probably get this all the time, but you're absolutely stunning. I think you kind of look like a blonde Mila Kunis. This is not the first time I've heard that comparison, which is beyond shocking to me because I don't see it. Mila Kunis, Tiffany Ferg, and Jennifer Morrison are like the three that I get regularly. But anyway, there's two elements of your story that I think are very important. The first is that you were maybe somewhat driven to inquire about Unique because of the idea of being like a makeup influencer. These days, MLM companies play into this so much. They play into like the millennial desire to be somebody and to be an influencer and to make money from your social media, which honestly, to be an influencer organically, like to have that organic following, to offer something to a community, to have like a genuine and organic influence, that's pretty difficult and it takes a lot of time. And so I feel like MLMs are kind of like influencer in a box, you know what I mean? Pay the startup fee, sell our product, promote us on social media, and therefore you're an influencer, which is 100% not how that works. Being a salesperson for somebody's company is way, way different than being an influencer where you're having like brand partnerships and sponsorships from a variety of different brands that you're pitching to your already organic and already grown and well-established audience. And so I kind of love that you brought that up because you were like, that was kind of a selling point. I really wanted to be that kind of person. I wanted to have that kind of presence, but thankfully you recognized that like selling Unique was not the way to go. Another thing, did you say, yeah, you did. You said a sponsored ad on Facebook. And you said that this story took place a few years ago. I can't say for sure if this was in effect a few years ago, but I know for sure now that on Facebook and Instagram at least, MLM reps cannot have sponsored ads. It's against the policy of the platform because it's not a sponsored ad. You're just a salesperson for somebody's company. If I'm able to find that rule, I'll put it right here on the screen. If you are sponsored, that means that you have an agreement. You have a contract between you, the influencer, and the company to do any variety of different advertising for them for a set rate. So therefore, the rep from that company can't claim that that post has been sponsored by the company. Does that make sense? Because MLM reps are not guaranteed any pay, period. So it's very misleading for them to be saying that they have been sponsored to create any kind of content on social media. And if you do come across that, you can report it to the platform. You said at the beginning that this was a they nearly got me story. And I love that that's the way it turned out for you because you saw the name of the company, you did your own research, and then you decided that it wasn't a good thing for you to get involved in. Good for you for doing that. This next story says, "Hey Hannah, first off, love the channel and your approach to anti-MLM content. I wanted to share my MLM story to show how sneaky they can be and how even someone with a decent paying job can fall for them. Also, a long story and an Amway story. To first summarize, this event took place back in about 2017. I was working as a recent grad as a civil engineer. Yes, I made decent money, but I had a lot of student loan debt, and coming from a working class family, realized how much more behind I felt in life and how hard it was to be successful. Now, going back to when I was first prospected, their terms. I was getting to the gym and changing in the locker room when a woman near me started a conversation. First of all, please don't do that. Of all of the places to start a conversation, changing in a gym locker room is not the best scenario. She was about my age and we had the same alum, and even her husband was also a civil engineer, so it was easy to connect with her and to even more trust her. She had asked if I was coming from work, and it was a shame that I was working so late. I was a little confused because it was only about 6:30 p.m. and I didn't think it was that late, but now I see that was her way to begin the doubt I have with my life and current job. She mentioned an opportunity but approached it as an e-commerce marketing company, and it didn't stand out to me at the time. I will also say I put too much trust in them because they went to the same college as me, and as a fellow engineer, I didn't think that they would mislead me. Next, the name Amway was not brought up until after maybe my fourth time meeting them. They used the name Baker Marketing as the company name for a while, and even had a website that had nothing tied to Amway. Now that's fascinating. Baker Marketing. I just searched Baker Marketing Amway, and the only things that are coming up are like Reddit threads or LinkedIn profiles of people claiming that they are in Baker Marketing. That is so misleading. Thank you for bringing that up. So now we can kind of tie Baker Marketing to Amway somehow, apparently. They also focused on the fact that they only used Amway for the products, but they used the Leadership Team Development, LTD, business model. Before that, I don't really recall anything about Amway as an MLM. I knew of Mary Kay, Avon, and other companies, but never really learned about Amway. Also, the anti-MLM content hadn't quite picked up, because I did a search for Amway and did not find anything too scammy back then. LTD was the model where all the training and tapes come from. I reluctantly joined and did try for a bit. I was misled about how you get customers and new team members. I was told it was easy and that my upline would set you up with that, when in reality it was calling your friends and family. Obviously, almost everyone wanted nothing and others just ignored me. The next bit I was misled on was these meetings. There were multiple different meetings a week and it was expected for you to be there. Then I was told there were major trainings once a year, which was also a lie. There were multiple different trainings with a few that were out of state. I joined about 2 weeks before a big event and they really pushed me about going and saying I wasn't going to be successful if I didn't go. I had a major work deadline and I couldn't change my schedule that quickly. I was tricked by thinking this company was my only shot of being successful. As mentioned before, I come from a working class family and I'm also the oldest. I know I will be taking on the most responsibility when my parents are in their old age and how difficult it can be. I knew from the beginning something felt off, but I was desperate. I started having horrible migraines and couldn't figure out why. When I finally left the business, the migraines stopped, and that's when I realized I only got those migraines when I was at their meetings and events. Great way for my body to consistently tell me this was not a good deal. Also, their products weren't that great, and even the ones that were okay were too expensive. I was again misled on how much product I had to have, and on average was spending over $300 a month, on top of monthly fees for the training. Isn't that fascinating how your body has a way of alerting you when something is wrong? This is not the first time I've heard something like this where people were like, I was so sick, or I was so anxious or depressed, or I had migraines, or whatever it might be, and all of that was relieved once I removed myself from this toxic situation. It's much more common than you would think. Finally, the one event that made me realize how bad the situation was. The next big training event was approaching. The event was held only a few hours away in a town that I have friends at, and they were going to let me stay at their house. I told my upline and they were not happy about that. They wanted me to stay at the hotel with the rest of the team and wanted me to let my friends know that I was not going to have time to visit them. That was a major red flag. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I've been to training and conferences before for my job, and yes, you have a schedule during the day, but typically there's some downtime and evenings are typically for you. At a team meeting about a week before this event, our uplines gave us a what to expect for the training. I was shocked at the list of items, from church service to being in an auditorium for hours to breakout meetings, back to the big auditorium, and then following up with night owl meetings. They followed up with reminding people to bring snacks because you may not have much time to eat, and when we we get one break, it's best to nap because the night owls can go into the early morning hours. It gets worse. We were then given rules. We could not hang out with anyone that wasn't your direct upline or downline, and we could not hang out with anyone, even a team member of the opposite sex. Then the women, only the women, were given a dress code lesson to also include if we went to the pool that we were required to wear a one-piece and no two-piece allowed. Excuse me? Yeah, that's like one too many red flags for me, okay? When they're being this controlling over things that have nothing to do with the fact that you work for this company or you're in this business opportunity, like who you hang out with, who you stay with, what you wear to the pool, absolutely not. And I know exactly what I'm going to say, but I can already see that you've bolded it for me in the next sentence. This was when all the shady events started to come together, and in my head I'm screaming, this is a cult. I went home with a horrible gut feeling, and that's when, instead of searching for just Zeke, are you kidding? He has never been this bad in the background of a video. I am so sorry if this is annoying. I don't know what else to do. I've let him in, I've let him out, I've let him in, I've let him out 4 or 5 times already. I've tried petting him, I've tried holding him, I've tried playing with him. Completely inconsolable. I went home with a horrible gut feeling, and that's when, instead of searching for just Amway, I searched for Amway Cult and hit a jackpot. I knew that I would never be happy with this business, and I would much rather go without it than stay. When the day to head to the event came up, I ended up lying and saying I had the flu, and then I just ghosted them all. I was only in Amway for about 6 months. A few months later, I started to get a couple of messages about friends getting in contact with my upline and how they said I recommended them. That's when I remembered they had me share my contact list, and they are now contacting people on my list without my permission. I was embarrassed and beyond angry with my old uplines. I have a lot more that I can say at another time, but I wanted to get out how I got in and how I got out. Would love to share some more of their shady practices, and thank you again for spreading this information. And thank you for helping me share this information. As I've said already, the most powerful, the most impactful stories come from the people who have been in it, and they're now on the other side of it reflecting back on their experiences. I 100% agree that this is a cult, and thank you so much for writing in this email. This story says, "Hey Hannah, first of all, I love your channel and content. You're an amazing creator, and I look forward to your videos. Thank you so much. Here is my horror story. When I was 20, I moved from my home state in the Pacific Northwest to the Midwest. I was as broke as could be. I had $1,000 when I got there and started my minimum wage job as soon as I got there. My bills were all paid and I had no debt, but I wasn't rolling in the dough. I was barely scraping by and pinching pennies as much as I could, just living paycheck to paycheck. I had a relative that is still pretty high up in Arbonne come from out of state, and while she was there, she hosted a party. She talked about the business opportunity, and I thought, wow, I could do this alongside my job and make extra money. I mentioned this to my relative, who promptly informed me that it was free to sign up that month, and it was towards the end of the month, so I needed to hop on the opportunity very quickly. I didn't fully realize what I was signing up for. All I knew was that I could maybe earn a Mercedes. It felt too good to be true. I should have known it was. Arbonne had just released their RE9 skincare set, and my upline, also my relative, was determined I absolutely needed this set. She was hosting a party and didn't have the new line, as it had been released while she was there. She told me I needed to order the whole kit right away so she could train me while she was there. Keep in mind, I had $300 in my account at that point, and the new RE line was $600 freaking dollars. She told me if I wanted to do the business, I needed the kit, and since we are doing a party in less than a week, I needed to order it today so she can do her party. Against my better judgment, I borrowed the $600 from a friend and bought the entire kit. My upline did the party and left. I tried to push it for a few months and soon realized it was a hoax. I made $0. I actually lost $500. It sucked and I hated the products. If the upline had been honest and told me it's actually really hard and I needed to work it like a full-time job, I never would have signed up. She and I are still friends. However, she gets upset every time I post anything anti-MLM content on my social media. I felt used by my relative, like she did not care that I lost money. I was just a dollar sign to her. I still supported supported her until I started watching you, CC Suarez, and other anti-MLM creators. I got rid of most of my Arbonne products and refused to buy from her. Thank you for continuing to spread awareness about the manipulation and lies spread by MLMs and their consultants. It's such a sticky situation when it is a relative, a friend, somebody that you know personally who you feel like would not mislead you, and they're the ones that end up misleading you. We inherently want to trust the people that we know, and it's hard for us to accept that if they're pitching us this opportunity, that's in their best financial interest, not necessarily yours. And this story has so many added layers. You're young, you move across the country, you barely have any money, you're just barely scraping by, and she's pressuring you to spend way more money than you even have on something that is ultimately going to benefit her the most. Honestly, it's like if she really wanted the dang skincare line so bad, she should have placed that order herself. It just gets so messy and so uncomfortable, especially when it's somebody that you know and love and want to trust, and they're ultimately taking advantage of that relationship. And the last story for this video is a short one, but it says, "Hello, Hannah, Zeke, and Cooper." I think this is the first email I've seen where the cats are addressed. I love it. Although Zeke is on my last nerve today. I've been binge watching all of your MLM content at home and at work for the past few weeks, and I'm beyond happy I found your channel. You're a sweet and precious bean, and I'm sure everyone listening would agree. While watching MLM Horror Stories number 4, I remembered my one and only experience with an MLM company, Primerica, way back in the day. A male acquaintance, Josh from high school, messaged me on Facebook about a job opportunity with little details surrounding the job itself, and I showed up to the job presentation a few days later out of desperation. The first red flag was the person who invited me wasn't even there. I was flabbergasted when I couldn't locate Josh anywhere in the small presentation room we were in, but I decided to hear these people out since he was not answering my messages and I drove all the way there. After the presentation was over, I noticed the second red flag. The way the presenters and employees of this company were dressed did not say, "Yes, I own a business and I make more money than you," or "Yes, I do make 6 figures." I absolutely would not intentionally judge anyone based off of their fashion electives, but come on, these people weren't even in business casual clothing. Of course, the third red flag was the payment for the background check and my quote, license to sell insurance. Needless to say, I never spoke to Josh again, nor did I ever go any further with Primerica. I did, however, run out of that building as fast as possible. If there is one thing I've remembered from that experience, it's that if any job asks for any money from you up front, it's a scam. Yeah, honestly, that's a pretty good telltale sign. If what you are being pitched is a job opportunity or an internship or whatever they try and frame these things as, but then there's like a buy-in cost or you have to pay this amount of money for this thing, that is a red flag. It's pretty well known across the board that if you are hired at a job and they require any kind of like special materials, special uniforms, anything that you would think would cost you money, those things are typically provided by the employer. And it's sneaky because at first they'll be like, oh, this is a job, you're interviewing for a job, but you need to pay me some money. And then when you're like, well, why would I pay you money if this is my job? Then they flip it, oh, it's a business opportunity. It's your own business. You need to invest if it's your own business, right? So shady. I hate it so much. And it's funny to think about the different things from different stories that stand out to me. And yes, while your experience here is 100% valid, the thing that's standing out to me the most is that it appears you've watched like several anti-MLM videos for an extended period of time. And it wasn't until somewhere in there that you remembered your personal experience with it. And I feel like that really goes to show that this kind of content, talking about multi-level marketing companies, talking about cult tactics, manipulation, financial scams, psychology, like all of it is wrapped in together, and it's a very fascinating topic, even if you don't feel like you have any personal connection to it. In this case, yes, you remembered your experience, but sometimes people don't. Sometimes people don't even live in a country where this kind of thing exists. They don't even know what an MLM is. They don't know anybody in an MLM. They've never been pitched one, but they still find this kind of content fascinating. And I think that that speaks volumes against the argument that this is just like hating on someone's hustle. Of course, people in MLMs, they see this as negative, as toxic, as hating on them. Why should we care? It doesn't affect us, that kind of thing. It just goes so much deeper than that. And there's so many levels to it. And it's stories like this where you're like, I've been binge watching these videos and I didn't even remember that I had a personal connection. I think that speaks volumes to how important this topic is and how everyone honestly has some kind of interest in it and has something to learn from it. Thank you so much for sending in your story. And with that, that's all of the horror stories that I have for you for this video. Again, a huge thank you to everybody who has sent me a story either for this video or for a previous video, or if I haven't even gotten to it yet. I'm looking at my folder now. I have over 50 stories, 50, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I love that I have this volume. Don't let that number discourage you from sending me your story if you feel like you want to. I will get to them at some point. And with that, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and I will see you in my next one real soon.